is Mr. Ayton. This is session 4 of Apologetics, Worldviews and Conflict. I'm Mr. Ayton, Robert Ayton. Check out MrAyton.com. Check out my YouTube channel. We're going through sessions on presuppositional apologetics, and we're going to be taking a look at worldviews in conflict. And so I want to start off with a quick story of a man from the city. A man from the city just bought a new sports car. You can see this beautiful yellow sports car and decided to go out in the country, stretch its legs, drive it real fast. And as this man was driving his new car on the back country roads, he saw this large cow in the distance with a farmer standing by its backside. As he got closer, he saw something he had never seen before. A small baby calf was hanging out the backside of this large cow. And the man from the city got out of his car, walked over to the farmer and said, "How fast was that little calf going to get that far up the cow?" It is a story talking about the antithesis between worldviews. The sports car, the city boy, thought somehow that calf ran really fast and got stuck up the back of the cow. The farmer, because he had a different worldview, understood, no, that mama cow was having a baby. And so this is what happens when two people are coming to a situation with two worldviews. They're going to approach life, knowledge, reality, everything within their worldview. And there is an antithesis that exists between these worldviews, an irresolvable conflict that is diametrically opposed as far from the city boy to the farmer. One person sees the calf being born, the other person sees the calf running really fast. And there is an antithesis that exists. And the Bible tells us of this antithesis. The Bible tells us that unbelievers in principle will think and behave systematically differently in a way than believers do. And so how do we defend the Christian faith when another person is coming to the same situation, whether you're talking about abortion, whether you're talking about where life begins, whether you're talking about creation, whether you're talking about the sinfulness of man, whether you're talking about morality? How do you defend the Christian faith when someone's coming from a completely different worldview? And the key is to demonstrate that the unbeliever's worldview cannot make sense out of science, history, morality, ethics, anything. You help them understand that their worldview cannot comport. It cannot be consistent. Remember, inconsistency is the sign of a failed argument. And so unbelievers depend upon the Christian worldview. Remember, they steal from our worldview. They are living on borrowed capital, and they do not wish to be consistent. They have an axe to grind with God. They will renounce the Christian worldview and then they'll use it when convenient. Just because an unbeliever does not believe in the things of Christianity does not make those things go away. They live in God's world, so they have to behave and live and breathe within God's world, but they fight against it. Let me give you another illustration. There's a famous illustration of a young child who sits on the father's lap, sits on his father's lap, and slaps the father's face. The only way this young child can slap the father's face is because the father is supporting him on his lap. And the only reason the unbeliever can slap the face of God is because God is supporting him or her. God gives them the breath in their lungs. God gives them the sodium, potassium ions that cross over within their brain. The God of this universe, the triune God, gives them the logic to use. And the unbeliever will have to depend on our worldview to cast a stone at our worldview. The unbeliever will not admit this antithesis. They will profess neutrality. They will profess objectivity, all while being not neutral and all while being subjective. And the alternative, because think about the alternative. What's the alternative is the unbeliever will say that the evidence is clear and the fault lies with them. Since the unbeliever is dead in their sins and trespasses, And since they are at enmity against God, they will go out of their way and not bow the knee to God. They will slap God, metaphorically, in his face while sitting on the lap of God. Living in God's world, they don't blame inwardly, so they're going to blame outwardly. Again, they will use your Christian worldview to cast the stones at your Christian worldview. So the key is to have the unbeliever see that they cannot do that. They can't live consistently. Romans 1:18-19. Paul says, "For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of people who suppress the truth in unrighteousness." That word suppress means to push down. They will push down the truth in unrighteousness because that which is known about God is evident within them, for God made it evident to them. And he goes on to say, "For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes," that's not just any God, that's the triune God, his invisible attributes, that is his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived, being understood by what has been made, so that they are without excuse. For even though they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks, but they became futile in their reasonings. There it is. They're using God's air, God's knowledge, God's logic, God's everything in order to hate God. They're futile in their reasonings, and their senseless hearts were darkened. And so the key to defending the Christian faith is to show the vanity, the unreasonableness, the inherent self-contradictions in the non-Christian's worldview. And you can take a look at three things. I like to keep very tight to these three things. Worldviews will be in conflict in these three things. The uniformity in nature. Uniformity in nature, remember, that means the future will be like the past. All experimental science is based in the uniformity in nature. All inference, experimental science, mathematics, language are based fundamentally in the uniformity of nature. In the Christian worldview, the biblical Christian worldview, we can say God is immutable, which means God does not change. He has revealed laws of nature, and he holds them consistently. We have a justification. The unbeliever's worldview can't say that. They simply have to say, it just works because it worked. It happened before, so it'll happen again. Remember, Bertrand Russell, the atheist, said, that's no justification. You can't do that. That is not a justification for the uniformity of nature. Laws of logic. Remember, laws of logic. We're using the laws of logic right now. To define the laws of logic, you need the laws of logic. The laws of logic are universal. They're unchanging. They're objective. They're immaterial, and they have the basis on the character of God. God cannot lie, and so therefore we have the law of non-contradiction. The unbeliever, in his worldview, he can't account for the laws of logic. He only has that which is material, and so he can't account for these immaterial laws. Ethics and morality, human value, dignity, purpose, worth, these are foundationally found and based in the image of God. We understand that man is made in the image of God, and so we have a justification for that. The unbeliever can just go, well, it's just whatever brings the most happiness. It just keeps societies good. It's just, it's what we all agree upon. You don't want to hurt anyone else. It brings harm to other people. So what? Who cares? In a Darwinian evolutionary worldview or an atheistic worldview, who cares? So what? And so the worldviews are in conflict. And the Christian is the only one that can live consistent within God's world. The unbeliever has to sit in the lap of God while slapping his face. And that is worldviews in conflict.